carrying my son Willie and me home to our beloved Springfield. I had much to do yet, much to accomplish, but that opportunity was denied me. I have left the task in the good hands of generations of Americans who have taken up the challenge, bore those hardships and the sadness, but always in the end have moved forward. Your America is truly a wonderful and majestic country, but it requires that you continue to be vigilant to make sure that we do not lose our way. You must remain steadfast to the ideals and beliefs of those countless Americans who came before you. As I have watched our country since my passing, I have been truly proud and yet sometimes saddened. But it seems to me that for every step back, you folks have taken 2 or 3 giant steps forward. I watched as you have moved west, planted, raised, and grew an America that would sustain your country and often much of the world. I have seen your cities grow to the sky, and your industries enrich our country and its people. Your intelligence creates wonders of technology and medicine. I watch with wonder and pride as you have fashioned a truly, well, shining city on a hill. Those good words were not mine. Another Illinois statesman, Ronald Reagan, said then, and spoke well for all of us. But let me tell you what has impressed me the most. The simple truth is that we have made some real errors when it came to protecting and ensuring the rights of all of our citizens. We need to know and understand the truth of our history, what has been unjust, move forward, and as a result, we will be better off as a people and as a nation. No, we have not been perfect, and we have had regrets. But if you were keeping score, we would be in the winner's circle. We have much to be proud of as Americans. Although we are not flawless, our achievements, our sacrifices, and our generosity are to be cherished, honored, remembered, and sustained. A special place, Gettysburg, was truly the beginning of our second chance. If the Confederates had won that battle, who knows what the future would have been? Would the Emancipation Proclamation have meant anything in a divided nation? Would we have lived up to the words of our fathers, that all men are truly created equal? Well, of course, that Union victory would eventually ensure a United States of America, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Each generation has been responsible for moving the country forward. We would proceed, and once we got started again, there was no stopping us. We were joined by millions of people with the courage to leave their homes and countries to find a better life, filled with liberty and the potential to make dreams of success and prosperity come true. We have invented, raised, grown, healed, educated, believed, and cared for so many that have needed our help. We were there. In all, America has done well. This republic has seen so many great leaders emerge from your diversified cultures that have truly left their mark and their achievements for all to value. You must remain dedicated to that proposition, that all men are truly created equal. With that noble thought finally in your minds, there is nothing you cannot achieve as one people standing together. Well, it appears we are getting close to my dear Springfield, and I will bid you all a heartfelt farewell, along with a hope and prayer for your continued prosperity and with peace in your future. And may I end our journey together with some words that I believe might have said it best to the American spirit.
All right, sorry for the delay. Things got tied up at the station. So welcome aboard the Lincoln train ride. As you all know, April 1865, Lincoln was assassinated that evening at the Ford's Theater. The next day he died, April 15th. He was laid in state at the Capitol building, and his wife, Mary Todd Lincoln, decided to send him back home to be buried in Springfield. And she also decided to send their younger son, Willie, who had died 2 years previously in 1862, while in the White House, he had died of typhoid fever, just because of the conditions at the time, the conditions in the White House. It was, open to everyone, and typhoid fever and other diseases like that ran rampant in those days. She decided to send them back on the train, and the train that they used was actually the presidential train, sort of the Air Force One of the time. Lincoln did get to see it. It was completed early in 1865. He grumbled a little bit about the price and all that, but he never had a chance to ride it as president. He was assassinated in April and never got a chance to take it to any of the other locations that he would normally travel to. So what they did was they used one of the cars on the train, cleared out all the accessories and everything else, and made it the lying in state train for the train ride back to Springfield, Illinois. It would be a 1,600-mile trip, roughly, 180 cities. They left in April, and he was finally laid to rest in May 1865. Of all the 180 cities that they traveled through, which included Baltimore, Harrisburg, Philadelphia, New York, all the way out to Springfield, they would have a funeral procession and have him lie in state at a Capitol building or wherever in the city that they pulled into, and then they would take him back, and the train would just continue on. So that was basically the extent of the train ride. The presidential train itself was 9 cars, and there were 300 people that accompanied the funeral train, including his son Robert, and on the way back to Springfield. So please enjoy the ride with Lincoln, and afterwards I'll have a few closing remarks, but take care and thank you.
And dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now, we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met on the great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this, but in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate. We cannot consecrate. We cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here, have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little know nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living, rather to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead, we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion. That we here finally resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and the government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.
A new and wonderful experience for myself, and I surely hope for you. Allow me to lead you on a trip through our American history as the true meaning of what happened here at Gettysburg and its resulting effect on your times reminds all of the spirit of America. As a boy, I would read by candle firelight of the epic beginnings of our country and of those who founded this nation. I learned of Washington, of Adams, of Jefferson, and Franklin. I could feel the despair and the courage of those citizen soldiers as they left their plows and shouldered their muskets to fight for freedom. That spirit of 76 would launch our country on the road to nationhood and greatness. As the fight for freedom and self-government ended, a new adventure would begin. Small towns would grow. Cities would see the growth of immigrant populations as foreign men and women sought freedom and prosperity in our new land. We would begin the expansion of our country. The mountain men would move west. We would see a small band of Texans decide the fate of their dream at the Alamo as they chose to stand and die for a belief that freedom was truly worth it. In search of land, riches, and prosperity, the American people would begin the great migration to the west. The pioneer spirit of America brought thousands from the cities and farms of the East and Midwest to the shores of the Pacific Ocean. Between these two great oceans, we built a nation, and our country would have to make a decision. Would we remain a united country living up to the magnificent idea of our forefathers that all men are created equal? Or would we risk disunion and thus not be able to nurture this unique and promising young government to maturity? It would be my time now. My election as the 16th President of these United States would bring the issue of slavery and states' rights to the breaking point. And our nation would embark on a terrible struggle to decide whether we would remain one nation under God and with liberty and justice for all. The Civil War would last 4 tragic years, and the blood of 620,000 Americans would be shed. Finally, on April 9, 1865, Palm Sunday, at Appomattox Courthouse in Virginia, General Lee would surrender his army to General Grant. The conflict would be coming to an end. The surrender would take a great pressure off my mind. The people could take a deep breath now and redirect their efforts to reconstruction, to rebuild this great nation. In that week following the close of hostilities, I would accompany Mrs. Lincoln for a night at the theater. Both of us appreciated the opportunity to enjoy an evening's entertainment. The future of America was to begin anew. Now we moved forward. We would expand and we would begin to build a true nation with unlimited ability to achieve greatness. Small towns to huge cities, industrial might, great steel and manufacturers, Asian immigrants to California. The railroads will expand America from sea to shining sea. The invention of the telephone, the invention of the electric light, the invention of the automobile. At Kitty Hawk, the invention of the airplane. Our medical scientists gave us cures for diseases such as tuberculosis and polio. Once again, Americans will be called upon to give the last full measure of devotion. In a world war, we would help save the world for democracy. In a second conflict, we would take on the fascists, the Nazis, the imperialists, whose boots were stepping on the free people throughout the world. In this, it is said, our greatest generation would emerge. We would live through the Great Depression and construct the buildings that would reach for the sky. What we began at Kitty Hawk would, through generations of improvements, bring us to the moon. We would also suffer one of our saddest failures, and we would once again stand together. Now we must endure, and we must begin again. We will. The history of America is your history. It is filled with accomplishments as well as great expectations for the future. The American dream will always have its heirs each generation, making sure that the flame of liberty will never go out. You are now invited to enter the Lincoln Train Museum. Enjoy one of the largest model train exhibits on display in the United States.
View the Lincoln train model as it travels from Washington City to Springfield, Illinois, my home. Enjoy our working model trains as they ride the rails, and finally, please join my son Willie and me as we are returned to our home.
Train museum. That makes some noise at the arrival.
Nice.
Feel free to ring the bells if you want. John said he took down all the do not show signs for that stuff. Gotta make some noise at the train station. And you can hit the buttons on the train platform. Big kids and little kids like to play the train.
Does this mean?
How was that?
That's really cool.
Nice.
No, not yet.
Folks, if you take a couple of minutes over here with me, I'll tell you a little something about McIvan and some Confederate blockade on his ship. Take a couple minutes over here. Have any of you seen Gone with the Wind or read the book by Margaret Mitchell?
That's so cool. He's the most famous soldier in World War II. Audie Matthews. And then you have
Where's he from?
Medal of Honor. It's super cool. Oh, that's so cool. Some cool dogs.